The man is freezing to death, but he put on his jacket and took off his trousers. Finally, the man huddled naked in the snow. Because of the cold, he kept breathing through his palms, but the air was minimally warm. It didn't take long for him to shiver, but even so, he didn't intend to put his clothes on his back, but clutched a plastic bag. Then shivering, he made the agonizing decision to empty the bag of its precious flour. With that, he filled another bag with snow and placed it in his arms as if it were a treasure, praying that he would be able to drink the melted water in 2 hours. But by evening the snow still had not melted. Worse still, none of his soaked clothes had dried. The man was furious and couldn't understand why he was so unlucky. He had lost his way while skiing and fell into a freezing lake. But just as he was complaining, he suddenly saw something. He couldn't believe it and rushed forward to confirm it. However, moments later he froze. On the nearby peaks many warm houses appeared. He had been trapped in the snowy mountains for 2 days and finally saw hope. At that moment he was like a naked child cheering in the snow. But he didn't have time to cheer before he nearly froze to death. To save his strength, he put on wet clothes and huddled in a crevice in the ice. He looked at a nearby house and slept happily, waiting to climb up and be rescued tomorrow. The next morning the man woke up refreshed. By now the snow in the plastic bag had completely melted. Fortunately, his mobile phone and radio were still on. It was as if everything had changed for the better. He looked at the house, which was covered by clouds, and continued on his way with confidence. But as the day wore on, the sun became harsher and harsher. He hadn't eaten for 3 days and his vision was getting blurry. At that moment he felt a wave of vertigo. Unable to support himself any longer, he stumbled and fell to the ground, lying on the snow and vomiting. But he hadn't eaten for 3 days and his stomach was so empty that he could only vomit up bitter bile. Finally he collapsed in a weak heap, and it was a long time before he got back up. For the rest of the journey he learned his lesson and kept his eyes closed to avoid getting dizzy again. Only when he felt he was nearing the top of the mountain did he open his eyes. But the sight before him almost made him faint again. He rubbed his eyes incredulously, but when he looked again it was no longer helpful. The mountaintop was still empty. He then realized that the house he had seen yesterday was an illusion caused by hypothermia. Seeing his hopes dashed, the man felt very disappointed, so he decided to continue up the mountain. Little did he know that this decision was the only way out of the snowy mountain.